It looks like Ricochet will be signing with All Elite Wrestling as news that his WWE contract has officially expired, making him a free agent. We're going to talk about what this means, everything we know about the situation so far, and why it's believed that he will eventually join AEW. We're also going to talk in this video about a WWE contract update and why there could be another WWE name that will hit free agency very, very soon. All this and much more coming up in this video. So be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. All right, first, let's talk about Ricochet. Obviously, it has been known that Ricochet's contract with WWE was coming up. We now have confirmed that his contract has officially expired. Fightful Select confirmed it. And in a report on FightfulSelect.com, it says the following, quote, sources within both WWE and AEW expect Ricochet to join All Elite Wrestling. As Fightful Select reported on Sunday, despite the speculation, Ricochet wasn't planned to face Will Ospreay at All In, at least as of recent weeks. And we will get into when we could possibly see that in just a second, but Ricochet believed, according to sources, that he will eventually join AEW. I think when he came out, or when word came out, I should say, that PW Insider report came out that said that, Ricochet had basically told WWE that he will not be re-signing and that he is seeking to do things elsewhere. I believe that it kind of was a foregone conclusion that eventually, in some way, shape, or form, he would be at least seen in AEW. All this coming at a time where Will Ospreay has been talking up Ricochet. We've had reports that Ricochet has been, people have been pushing backstage in AEW to make a push for Ricochet. This was the most likely landing spot for him. It's just the truth. I think if we're looking at the way that AEW can highlight Ricochet versus the way the WWE can, I think that there is more potential with Ricochet being highlighted as the talent that he is in AEW. I have my own concerns, and that I will get into later on in this video, but the idea that, he would go there, it was a lot of people saw the writing on the wall the second that report that he was not going to stay with WWE came out. He, of course, is written off of WWE TV, has not been seen since, taken off in that ambulance. And look, now the question is, what is the future for Ricochet, for AEW, considering these factors? The main concern that I have with him going to AEW is that AEW has this unfortunate track record of not really using people, these very skilled wrestlers like Ricochet, to their full potential. For a while, Malachi Black fit into that category. Andrade, Miro, and the list goes on and on and on. Seems like a lot of people are there, and then you forget about them being there, and they show up, have a good match, and you're like, oh, well, they should probably use that person a little bit more. My biggest fear is with the roster that they have, and the lack of focus, quite frankly, on the shows of Rampage and Collision, that he will get lost in the shuffle. And part of the thing that they probably need to do is fix Collision and make that show a more must-watch show that means a little bit more. I think when these media rights deal come together, you're probably going to see Collision moving to 3 hours, or one of them, either Dynamite or Collision, moving to 3 hours, just because they have that extra hour of Rampage that I don't think is going to be picked up as just an hour by itself. I do believe it's going to be in addition to another one. That's why they've been playing around with 3 hours of Collision, 3 hours of Rampage, or 3 hours of 3 hours of Rampage. Could you imagine? 3 hours of Dynamite. They've been kind of playing around with that formula a bit, and I think the eventual goal here is to get to a place where they have that third hour. And look, if they're able to do that and do that successfully, have a more focused show, I don't think it's going to be as much of a problem for talent like Ricochet, especially as AEW is a company that more so focuses on wrestling and the in-ring product. Now, as far as who he faces, the big name is obviously Will Ospreay. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Will it happen at Wembley? As of right now, it does not look like that's the case. I think right now it seems like they are building up a mega match for Wembley, and that match is Will Ospreay versus MJF for the International Championship. There's speculation that people want to see, Swerve and Ospreay running back. As much as I want to see that, I don't think that's the match at all in just yet. I think it's basically penciled in that Swerve will be facing the winner of the Owen Hart Cup, and Will Ospreay is obviously not in that. But I think they've been kind of teasing this MJF Will Ospreay thing in a very awesome way, and I think that's a match people want to see. It's a fresh match. The thing with Ricochet and Will Ospreay is you can do it anytime. It doesn't need to be at Wembley. It can be at All Out. And look, you want something that 2 weeks after All In, which again, the pay-per-view number is going to take a dip a little bit, but how much of a dip is depending on what's on that show, right? I think All Out could be a perfect spot to have that. You're in Chicago, which is a really big wrestling city. Arguably, to me, it's the wrestling capital of the United States. I don't think that there's any better place to put on a pro wrestling show right now than in Chicago, Illinois. And that crowd will show up, I think, for Ricochet and Will Ospreay. You could build the entire pay-per-view around that, to be honest. And again, it's coming 2 weeks after a mega show in AEW All In, which is basically their biggest show of the year. So that's when I would do it. And again, we will see what happens. It's believed that he would show up. When could he show up, I think, is another question that probably needs to be answered. I mean, the reality is anytime. There is no non-compete as far as we know. When WWE contract expire, the non-compete is not an issue. That's only when a talent is released. So he can literally show up on Wednesday and be like, I'm Ricochet, I'm here, I'm bouncing around, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens there, guys. Let me know in the comment section, though, what you think of this. As we move on to our next and final topic, let's talk about WWE contract news. Most importantly, though, let's talk about a former WWE Women's World Champion whose contract is fast approaching. Let's talk about the one, the only. There we go. Natalya. Let's talk about Natalya. So Natalya's WWE contract is expiring, and there was an interesting note from Fightful Sean Ross Sapp, who tweeted this out. Natalya is not at tonight's WWE Raw and isn't scheduled for the show. Fightful Select has confirmed Natalya's WWE deal was scheduled to be up soon, though those in the company have not provided an update on how those talks have resulted. This is another interesting report. Again, thank you to the good people at FightfulSelect.com. Go check them out. But we have been hearing about Natalya's contract. It's been another big one that's been coming up. And conventional wisdom would tell you that she would be a WWE lifer. Obviously, herself and her husband both have jobs there. TJ Wilson is a fantastic producer by all accounts for WWE. And she's just been there for a while. And you could argue that wisdom, that veteran status is very well needed in WWE. But the way things have kind of planned out, it doesn't seem like they are coming to a deal. And again, people have been talking, and it's one of those weird things of when TKO, took over WWE. One of the interesting things that I've noted is these contract talks have been coming down to the wire, and it's been reported that's almost a deliberate kind of move. Even people like Rollins, Becky Lynch, Damian Priest, all these contracts talks, Chad Gable recently, have been coming down to the wire, and they don't engage until significantly later on in the process than they used to. And when you give people that time to really think about it, think about their options, and not really consider re-signing a year out from their contract, one of the things is well, I'm about to hit free agency. What else is out there? And that is one of the things. I understand the TKO merger is causing issues as far as the budget and how much they want to allocate towards each talent. But at the same time, you do run the risk of giving people a little bit of too much time to kind of think about what else is out there. And I don't think it's a Drew McIntyre situation where McIntyre was likely gone from WWE had this CM Punk feud not come through in the way that it has. And I don't see that with Natalya. We obviously did not see that with Ricochet as far as like the story being there with those guys, with those people. And I think the odds that she ends up going to AEW, again, this is my reckless speculation here. I think the odds are significantly higher than they are of her staying with WWE. Does that mean she's gone? No, we don't know. Natalya at the end of the day is the person who has to make this decision. But her not being on Raw, the fact that like there have been reports that people in AEW have been really pushing for Natalya to go over to WWE, or sorry, to go over to AEW. Owen Hart Cup is a thing right now. I mean, I'm just saying, where there's a lot of smoke, there tends to be fire. And if you ask me, I think you want to bolster that women's division even more than you have. Like we've gotten in a significantly better place with the AEW women's division than it was like even just a year ago. I have been one of the biggest criticisms of this company that I have had has been their lack of usage of the women's division, and especially considering so much of the talent that they have. You bring in Natalya, I think you also are able to provide more like leadership in that women's division, and I think needed leadership. Like it's a lot of those talent are younger. They are just like getting to the time where they're like it's their first time on TV. Having Natalya backstage, as almost like a mentor, is great, and having her come in and create some buzz, especially early on, is going to be spectacular. And she's a big name. Like, say what you want about it. Like, oh my God, she's Natalya. Like, what has she done in WWE lately? She's still a massive name. Natalya Neidhart would be an insane get for AEW, both on screen and off screen, I think. And look, if TJ Wilson comes along too, that is a really good producer and someone who knows professional wrestling better than almost anyone out there. So we'll see what happens here. Obviously, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think is going to happen? Is Natalya going to stay with WWE? Will she go to AEW? What's the speculation? Let me know in the comments section. Also, if you haven't already done so, do me a big time favor and smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. And until next time, be happy, be healthy, and as always, keep it real.